Like many media organizations, the Boston Globe has paid a lot of attention to the Me Too movement, but it's also been accused of not fully reckoning with its own sexual misconduct issues. And no critic has been more outspoken than former Boston.com top editor Hilary Sargent, who discussed the Me Too movement on this show with Jim Braude last fall.
The more men feel as though, well, I'm not Donald Trump and I'm not Harvey Weinstein, you can be that in small ways and really change the course of a woman's life.
When the Globe published this story looking at its own track record, Sargent pushed back on Twitter, saying the paper should dig deeper and that her own attempts to share information had been rebuffed. This week, she went further, tweeting what she says was a text message exchange between her and Globe editor Brian McGrory, in which she asks for writing advice and he asks what she wears when she writes. If you've ever been sent a sext-type text from someone who was powerful enough that you felt you couldn't do anything other than panic, shake your head, cry, you're not alone, Sargent wrote. The more we tweet these, the less they'll send them. So far, the Globe isn't talking. We've reached out to Brian McGrory and Globe Managing Director Linda Pizzuti-Henry for comment and have not yet heard back. We did hear from a Globe spokeswoman, however, who told us, we are aware of Hilary Sargent's tweets. We have no comment at this time. Joining me now to discuss all of this are the host of WGBH's Beat the Press, Emily Rooney, and Dan Kennedy, a regular panelist on that show, a journalism professor at Northeastern and the author of The Return of the Moguls, How Jeff Bezos and John Henry are remaking newspapers for the 21st century. Thank you both for being here. Emily, let me start with you. What do you make of the fact that no one at the Globe is commenting in any meaningful way on this?
Well, can we just start with the fact how awkward this is? Hilary Sargent used to work at WGBH. Sure. We all know her quite well, like her. She's a lot of fun to be with, fun to work with. We all know Brian McGrory and respect his work at the Globe. It's just an awkward situation. We don't know the nature of this relationship. So this tweet, even though she's been hinting all along that something happened to her and to other people at the Globe, we really don't know the nature of it. So maybe the Globe is preparing something. Maybe they're doing another internal investigation. As you know, they're not quick to jump on these things publicly. They have said in the past that they're looking at these, even with the Kevin Cullen thing. They haven't reported on that. They're looking at it internally. So maybe that's what's going on, and maybe they will address it publicly. They have not yet.
You have a similar take, Dan?
Yeah, I agree completely with that. I mean, I've been checking in with some people at the Globe who might know something about this, and what I have found so far is that people are struggling to make sense out of what happened, how serious is it, what should the Globe do about it? What is the Globe doing about it? Because what Linda and John Henry might be doing about it is not necessarily something that's being shared with people at the next level down. So at the moment, everything is all kind of vague and fuzzy.
Before we keep talking about the journalistic issues involved here, let's talk about Hilary Sargent's claims in particular. Do we have any reason to doubt that the text exchange that she tweeted out is authentic?
I believe it's probably genuine. I don't think she would risk anything more. She's already had kind of a bumpy career with certain things, even a little journalistic bump. I don't think she would risk that at this point. So I'm gonna assume it's real. What we don't know is whether Hilary was working at the Globe at the time that that text message came through. She had two stints there. One when she was very young, she was an intern. She was only 19 years old. Another one, I think, around 2012, right after she left WGBH. So. And maybe this was after she left the Globe. So we don't know the timing, and so far, Hilary has not made that clear.
Dan, are you confident in the authenticity of what she's put out there?
I don't think anybody is questioning the authenticity of it.
Now that we've got that established, and this is a sort of a non-journalistic question, a social question, but how objectionable did you two find what Brian McGrory allegedly tweeted at her? She asks about writing. He asks her what she wears usually when she writes.
This was out of context. Once again, we don't know what was said before that. We don't know what was said afterwards. And McGrory has kind of a joking, snarky tone in there, which is very much like him. When she says, seriously, he goes, not really. So we don't really know what the tone of that back and forth was, how long it went, what the context was, and if there was something afterwards, and whether she had said something kind of funny herself. We don't know. It's out of context. So I'm going to say not that bad, but certainly enough to be a red flag, which is why we're having this discussion.
Well, I think what I would add to that, I agree with everything Emily said, but at the same time, Hilary Sargent clearly found it to be very objectionable, and I think we have to take that seriously. So even though we don't know the context, we don't know what came before, we don't know what came after, she believes it was very objectionable.
Well, she's using it as an example. I don't know if she thinks it's very objectionable.
Well,
she's using it as
I
an
had
example.
that take from her tweets that I would agree with Dan based on what she tweeted.
Yeah.
This made her feel completely powerless
Exactly.
and rendered her overwhelmed. We did get a statement from Hilary Sargent right before we started taping. I want to read what she said in full. Women deserve to be treated professionally and taken seriously. It is crucial that individuals in leadership positions are held to the same high standards of conduct that the Globe would expect of any individuals in leadership positions at other similarly powerful institutions. Those in leadership positions at media organizations have significant influence over how the issue of sexual harassment is covered, and the coverage they oversee should never be tainted or colored by their own missteps or misdeeds. Let me keep on talking here for a second, because for me, one huge question here is, should Brian McGrory recuse himself from any coverage of sexual harassment issues, broadly speaking, going forward as this plays itself out? He's presided over a lot of stories, as we saw in the intro to this segment. He also wrote an apology after the Globe initially did not name Jim O'Sullivan, the former reporter there who was pushed out after sexual misconduct allegations against him. So can McGrory really be the final editorial voice while he stands accused of something by someone he used to work with?
He doesn't need to recuse himself of anything yet. They need to address this in some sort of public, way in order to put this in context of what it was. And as I said earlier, maybe they're just at the investigative point. I mean, if he is found to be inappropriate, grossly inappropriate, and there's more, and Hilary has sort of insinuated there might be more, then of course. And that it would signify something even more important.
Let me just push back on that a little bit, though. Wouldn't the right time to recuse himself be right now preemptively as any, and again, we don't know if a review is going on, but it just seems to me like in the absence, if a review is being conducted, it's a big if a review is being conducted of this matter, and he is asked to edit a story or give final approval to a story that involves allegations, proof, reviews of an individual's behavior. That's so intimate. You're squinting like I'm saying something nutty. You think that?
I don't think what you're saying is nutty, Adam. I do think you're layering hypotheticals on top of hypotheticals. I think that what we need is transparency on this issue, and either there is something that Brian McGrory has to answer for, or there isn't. I think he's been a very good editor of the Globe. As you properly point out, though, his one big misstep up to this point was handling the Jim O'Sullivan sexual harassment situation a few months ago, and now we're dealing with something else. We need transparency. We need to know what's going on over there, what happened.
The message I got from that statement from Hilary, and something that she has said all along in some of the other messages she has sent, she has shared something that she wrote to the Globe with me that was not off the record, is that this is a powerful institution. I mean, one of the most powerful, right up there with Harvard University, and it has a sort of an imperious approach to
Linda
things.
Pizzuti Henry was just anointed by Boston Magazine as the most powerful person
they're just
in Boston.
on another level than almost any other institution in this city. And if they aren't looking within themselves, who's going to? We're doing it, but you don't see any other reporting on this other than you said, except Turtle Boy Sports.
Turtle Boy Sports.
WEI
WEI sort of talked tangentially about it today. They
Callahan.
alluded to it, but didn't really take it head on. Can the Globe really report on an allegation like this effectively, though? Or would they need to bring in someone from the outside to cover this? Because it just seems to me like it would be very hard if I, as a reporter, were tasked with covering allegations against, a head person at WGBH. I wouldn't really be happy with that assignment, and I'd feel very limited in my ability to execute it. So can the Globe cover itself when it comes to this stuff?
I think that what the Henrys have to do is do a little bit of preliminary investigating and find out if there's enough there to warrant a major investigation and a major story. We don't know that yet.
We don't.
But if they do, I think you make a good point. I think it might very well be a good idea to bring in respected outsiders to look at this, as they did with the Kevin Cullen matter and the columns that are in question
However, they were also slow to pick up, in my opinion, when they had the disastrous woes with the distribution and circulation problems two years ago, or 2 or 3 now.
Well, they're still going on.
Very, very slow to do an investigation, and it was assigned to somebody. They did a news report, but there was no deep follow-up. We never learned how many subscriptions were canceled. We never learned what happened.
Remember, didn't they do a great big feature sort of sizing it up? Yeah.
One. But you never really got the sense that it was something that they were
I thought they
continue.
did a better job looking at their distribution problems than they did at looking at their printing problems.
Yeah, right.
Probably because the distribution problem was solvable.
And how would you compare their examination of their sexual misconduct problems to those two things that you were talking about? Better or worse?
Well, I think that story, I mean, I thought that the fact that they did not name Jim O'Sullivan was extremely problematic, and it led to Brian McGrory having to issue a mea culpa.
And possibly other people, which is part of the message that
Yes.
Hillary has been putting out there since last fall, that there are other people who have not been named.
We're out of time on that note. I just want to mention something that I learned from your book, The Return of the Moguls. Brian McGrory played a big role in recruiting John Henry to purchase the Globe.
Yes, he did. I mean, this is so awkward, it's unbelievable.
The whole thing is awkward.
All right, Dan Kennedy, Emily Rooney, thanks.